basically, I want this to be a discussion, so I've got some topics to see it, but really what we're trying to do here is figure out where people want to go with Android, what type of problems you see, where we could potentially do new initiatives. And I know you guys have probably had some of these discussions earlier. I'm guessing, Stefan, is that, yeah, so really this one was to bring in people who may not normally join the Android group to talk about this, but and also for people online. So what I was going to do is go to start with what we're seeing. So this is a bunch of stuff that we captured from the community, and essentially I just wanted to walk through it and have the discussion and figure out, just capture the discussion, see where we land. We're looking for where do we need, what topics, what problems, which opportunities do we want to pursue with Android in the AA-SIG, essentially. And so I'm looking for input. So that said, one of the things that, and Stefan and Piotr and Curls Online basically jump in and tell me if I'm talking about something that, you want, that I'm not saying right. So basically, a big topic has been data, and we talk about vehicle properties being limited. There's no standard way outside the vehicle properties for a developer to obtain vehicle data on Android. This is one of the problems that has been dealt with in this group. This was so I guess what I should probably do is go through this list and then address the issues we want to address. So we have other people are interested in sharing non-differentiated content, non-competitive content outside of the Google App Store. So essentially, they would like to have a non-GAS App Store, non-Google App Store with content that they share amongst themselves, OEMs. Multi-display, multi-user. Currently, you can have multiple driver users with one active driver at a time. There's some code since Android 10 that hints at a way to support passenger users and be able to assign passenger to a display. Example, left-hand rear seat. It would be great if we had a working example showing how this is meant to work. Where vehicle properties are lacking in functionality, we can suggest extensions, vendor properties that would fill the gap. How to improve sharing of roadmap with customers, multi-display, multi-user. Basically, there's no public roadmap. It doesn't sound like. Boot camp. How do you get an invite? NDA. 2020 videos are online. So they're asking, is the NDA? Is there an NDA? And how do you get invited? How do we engage with AOSP, car, AAOS community with very little information of how to build AOSP, all B2B, meaning is Google going directly to the people who want to do this? Why so little effort in developer relations? There's this idea that Linux has a community and it's very active, and you can send items to lists, you get responses. It does not happen with Android. Google puts minimum amount of effort into AOSP and AAOS. Is there an appetite in COVESA to create a forum for sharing information about AOS, and may also to create a cross-party interface with AOS team in Google? So there is this question of, is there an appetite to partner with Google? That'd be both sides. Sharing vehicle data with Google and other parties, what are the risks and opportunities? Should there be sharing at the level of vehicle properties? And the last three are more questions. What data point, this is from Google, what data points / metrics to OEMs and others want? What data point / metrics to OEMs and other want from vehicles? What different telemetry will be needed from EVs versus ICE for vehicles? Thoughts on AOS going beyond the IVI space to enter to other ECUs in the vehicle? So this is all I've got. So I'm going to throw it out to the crowd. Did any of these resonate with you? Are there more? Anyone?
So at this point, we need to discuss all about.
Yeah. I'm just. How about the first one? Vehicle properties are very limited. There is no standard way outside of vehicle properties to develop for a developer to obtain vehicle data on Android. Does anyone want to talk about this? This was put on the list. It came from the AA-SIG group the other day, and you probably have been talking about it today. So
we discussed in the previous meeting.
Yeah. So this is one. So there may be a different set of people here. So can maybe. I'm guessing not all of you were here in the last meeting, but maybe you all were. I don't know. And we've got people online who haven't been. So I guess the question is, could you give an overview of like what you said and?
Yeah, sure. So basically, there is interest from the group that the proposal that is existing in the USP is not sufficient for all the use cases. So it ends up that some of the OEMs are implementing their own services that are providing some like similar features or similar properties that Google Framework is doing. Yeah.
Actually, we are not only talking about the properties list, but also, for example, the permission granularity. And it seems that there are some ideas, that there are some solutions, and the question is how to handle this in a standard way, because it seems that each OEM has its own way of doing this, and they are trying to communicate with Google separately. But maybe the COVESA is a good place to start proposing a common approach that will solve the problems for all, not just for one.
So basically, it's permissions for the properties. Everyone's implementing them differently.
Yes, it is directly related to properties. Yeah. We are discussing the VSS, which is a perfect startup.
Yeah.
That is understood almost globally now. Yeah. The double 3C is taking care of it. COVESA is taking care of it. OEM are advocating.
Can I bring something up on it? So I think an effective way for this would be if you have enough OEMs.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like what I would try to do is get a.
Can you help with the mics?
They're excited, like, hey, this is how we like the permissions. We want to use this VSS. If you can kind of coalesce around that, and then get them to talk to their partner engineering counterparts or partner engagement counterparts at Google, then that's a good way to kind of bubble that up. I would really push through the OEMs and their partner engagement teams to try to do that.
Okay, that's.
Would there be an option for a partner engineer to be involved in COVESA?
You know, I think there could be, especially if there is, if a request comes, if we can get enough OEMs to request that and say we like that, I think there is an opportunity there. We are growing the partner engineering team. Oh, microphones.
So basically, that one is you talk to Google, and I'm just trying to understand. So I'm having enough trouble understanding what was said. So.
Yeah. So I think the best. I think the best way to do it is to really have it come up as a groundswell through the OEMs. I know we have Ford here, Volvo, not sure who else, but really have that kind of bubble up through as a united front through your partner engineering and partner engagement teams that, hey, we have this idea of how we want to implement this via VSS, or we want someone from partner engineering to engage deeply with COVESA's VSS meetings.
Yeah. So basically, so that's really just an interaction to, so I guess one of the questions is Google does not participate. They're not in any COVESA meetings today. And so I guess fundamentally that's kind of related to the other problems of how do you get help if you're not working with Google, if you're in the open source community. So would you say that, I guess, I'd love to hear around the room how people do get help when they're looking for this type of problem. I mean, do you all just go scour the web for something like that? You ask your company, what do you do today? Just like how do you like if you don't know something, how do you get it? So forums clearly don't seem that active. So just based on what people put on this list, so.
Well, I can say from a small company rather than OEM that we can't.
So you just don't.
We just don't.
I believe there's no generic answer to your question because there are a lot of different engagements currently across OEMs and Google and individual license agreements, and for the moment it's just a matter of, you know, communication across the individual partners. I think this three-way thing, BSS, Google, and the OEM, that's kind of a new thing that could trigger some very positive movement here. But I think a lot of the OEMs and perhaps even key players in Google don't have it on the radar yet.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, it's kind of brand new. BSS and these agreements.
All right. I mean, really what I'm hearing is a good thing to do would be to establish lists and see if we can get some type of liaison going with Google, you know, at some regular cadence. And so clearly make the most of the time and be concise and go through whatever the problem is you're dealing with. How about from an initiative perspective? You know, so BSS to VHAL is one thing, but what about the other initiatives that that have been done on Google, for example, to extend the lists? I mean, or how you access the data. What do you think is needed to actually? I know you had this conversation previously, but what is really necessary to? Who's your audience, and what do you really need there? I mean, is vehicle properties gonna be what you need? So, or do you need something else? And the reason I'm asking this is because Google's listening, and so in short, what do you need? What do we need? What do you need to get at more data?
Yeah, actually, but that's just the one problem, right? So
Right.
I guess that there are multiple problems with different areas related to Android. So one, for example, like generic is like a vehicle properties,
Yeah.
right? But it's not, as Piotr said, there is a problem with
Permissions.
with permissions, with granularity of permissions. There might be some other problems in the future. So that's why even if we resolve that small piece right now, reaching Google, whatever, then we might have similar problems in the future with other areas.
So there's that level of problems, but what about the way properties are exposed? Is that enough for Android? It seems to me that some people have wanted more than getting at more data than the properties, and so is that something that we want to try to standardize with Google? Is that something that we're happy to set up servers and be able to do independently as different OEMs? What do you really want there? Not you, but the automotive industry.
Isn't the problem very generic? I mean, this is just one issue. We have Google is on top of their own operating system that seems to be some sort of de facto standard now in the IVI business or whatever. So there are so many questions to be solved because you don't have any overview of the roadmap. You don't know what is coming. You don't have a forum, as you said, that is really working. You are chasing, each OEM are chasing their own information. They are trying to do workarounds to really get a car out there working as the users expected, because they've had infotainment systems for 20 years with a BMW or with a Mercedes or what it could be, so they expect a certain type of functionality, but the OEMs can't control what they're actually delivering. So, and they would like to add features, they would like to deliver something which is newer and more fancy. And the user are used to have a mobile phone, and the mobile phone is something that can stop work tomorrow because there was an update that broke the phone. Okay, you can expect that sort of things, but not a car that cost you 100,000 euro or whatever. So I think the general problem here is to have a good forum that the automotive community can interact with, get real engineering discussions on all levels, I should say, and discuss roadmaps, discuss how to upstream whatever inventions or ideas. So otherwise it will be, as you said, Jeff, I mean, that's one thing, but if you go through Volvo, you go through BMW or something, then you start to invite maybe Mercedes into the BMW community, which is difficult. I think a community like COVESA is probably something, if everyone can pipe through this and have one unified interface, it will be less support issues for Google also. That will be probably very beneficial for them because they don't need to talk to 20 different interfaces. They can have one and the same discussing these common problems that we have. So
Yes, I mean, that's
my view.
Yeah, well,
at least.
that's very much organizational.
Yeah, OEM.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a process and organizational, which makes sense. I think that that clearly, you know, through when we had this discussion, people felt the same way. So go ahead.
I think there is also another aspect to the term of roadmap. It basically works in reverse. So I know for current use case where an engineer found some very promising code towards multi-display management in Android 11, but it was totally removed in the preview of Android 12. So it's also a problem, I think, with reverse roadmap, that things that look very promising that you might want to build your system upon because it's the solution, it just disappears in the next version.
Yeah, it's typically the same thing. Yeah. That problem you see. The roadmap can rip out everything that you implemented or that was good. And then next release, it's gone or changed. Fully different architecture.
Yeah, so roadmap, basically seeing where they're going and why. I mean, yeah, makes sense. So that seems like the kind of thing that you could add to, like, you know, an interaction with, if we were able to get a regular interaction with Google. I don't know what it could be asked for. I don't know what Android will say or Google will say, but it seems like it's needed.
I haven't interacted directly with Google, but I heard that basically Google wants to make it more suitable, to get stronger into the car. They have a self-interest, but maybe not the knowledge what is needed. So trying to initiate this sort of connection, Google should be interested in theory to have one big voice that gives a collected input from the industry, but what is lacking in Android.
And you were going to say?
Yeah, I agree with this last sentence in the meaning that, so I don't understand where this is coming from, but my company, we take care of multi-display, multi-screen. We have a way to bring, for example, a cinema, it's a German company, and we work together also with Google. Google knows us, what we do, so we extend the Android Automotive by involving rear seat passengers, bring their own devices, and so on and so forth. And yeah, I'm very interested in the share non-differentiated, non-competitive content outside Google App Store, because also there we not only involve multi-users in the car, but also bring content where the content is not there yet. And yeah, we have a very open relationship with the OEM. I'm simply not understanding where is this coming from. I mean, is this a question to?
Yeah.
I mean, where the question comes from, yeah. Just
so where I'm coming from, where the session's coming from?
No. I mean, it's like there's an interest in for example, I see left and rear seat. We can show it in a demo, or so. Is it a question, or is the features there in the market, or?
So Chris is online. He can probably answer you. Chris, are you there?
I think Oscar was just an example about the different displays.
So
more a generic problem interacting with Google.
This is clear.
And knowing what is coming and what's not coming. So say again, if it was already there, what's gone when you get the next release and so on. So I think that's more a general problem.
Okay.
Because you don't have control over it really. It's Google that controls it, and we don't have any voice into Google.
Yeah, sure. So we received also from the tier one often also to other related topics such as the projection modes. The OEMs that they say, so OEMs is the voice is speaking to Google, and we.
Can you hear me now, too?
Yeah, we can hear you. So this question came from him.
No, I guess not.
Yeah, we can hear. Maybe I'm muted. If they can hear the room, maybe I need a mic. I got a mic. You can't hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Fantastic. I've forgotten what the question was now, though.
The question is, what are you going to do about Android? No. It comes to your entry here about multi-display and multi-user currently. I think that was from you, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So this was just a kind of a moment of frustration, actually, when I wrote this, that I was trying to work out how the multi-user functionality is meant to work, in particular how we represent passengers, including rear seat passengers. And my frustration is there's just no demo code from Google on how this is meant to work. There's some little bits of code here and there with some hints, but none of it actually works. So what we'd really like, either from Google or communitively, we can piece it together ourselves. How are we meant to implement rear seat passengers?
Okay. Yeah, now it's clear. Yeah, I mean, I can send you the demo video. Nice to meet you.
Hi, and you too.
Thank you.
That'd be great. Can you send me the demo code as well, though?
No, I don't do it. Thank you so much.
The video is great, but I really need the code.
It was a pleasure.
I mean, this is open source, right?
What's that?
This is all open source.
From Cinema?
No, that was Cinema proprietary code.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, okay, right. That's different.
so yeah, you need to explain.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, I just wanted to get involved in the conversation. I find interesting the question, and that's it. I mean, I understand now what's the purpose behind, and we can connect privately. I can share the demo video. I think it's clear. Then, if you have more questions to it, we will have a conversation.
But from my point of view, I mean, if Android Automotive is really going to be a good operating system or framework for car infotainment or whatever in the car, I think they need to work very closely to the complete community. I think that's the main issue, and not each and every OEM, because it will be a nightmare for them as well to support all these guys from one and the same company. So I think they need to find a good interface, and COVESA could definitely be that interface as I see it.
Yeah. Especially that sometimes we have a chain of suppliers, so there is not only OEM in the game, but it has its own tier 1s, tier 1s has tier 2s, and so on, right?
Yeah.
And those smaller companies doesn't have the access to the Google context.
So you talked about this earlier also about experience. I mean, Google is gaining a lot of experience now in the automotive context, but they have been in consumer before. There are so much legacy, so much history from automotive, and also regulations coming now for the cars, cybersecurity requirements, this ISO 21434, for example. You have other kind of automotive spies. How do you handle that in relation to Google, Android, Automotive, for example? I mean, this hyper, I mentioned that before, but I didn't get any answer really. The super agile versus the old waterfall way of working. So I think all these kind of experiences, is the history in automotive, is very important for Google to understand when they launch and set their own internal roadmap. So even if they don't tell everything, they can at least have a good open discussion about it, and good channel for upstreaming whatever functionality, and then they can approve it, and then they can launch a good roadmap looking forward. So I'm just on a supplier side and services side, so I just see how the frustration cooking around, and in some cases I've been there on certain areas like connectivity, Bluetooth, for example, where the Bluetooth architecture is changing also from the older version to the new versions. There is no real consistency either. And now they are talking about the new Bluetooth stack again. Okay, what would happen with that one? How is that going to be supported, and so forth? So it's a little bit of a black box, but for the automotive OEM, it's not good if it's black box. They would like to have full visibility and understand what they're actually putting in the car. So.
Okay. So what I'm consistently hearing is it would be great to have just more interaction with Google. But so I don't know if that will happen or not, but we can definitely ask, and what does that mean? And so I don't know the answer from Google, but yeah, I mean.
Jeff, you need to bring this with him.
So
I mean, I think that I think that if you're able to show that COVESA is, if a lot of OEMs say, hey, we want to, bring our desires for features through COVESA, then perhaps, we can assign somebody from partner engineering or partner engagement to that. But we have to see some proof that OEMs and, let's say, OEMs want to engage through COVESA. So it's got to be
Yeah, of course,
pull.
yeah.
It's not going to
Yeah.
be a push, right?
No.
So, I mean, when I came here, there were a lot of people within Google. I said, oh, I'm going to COVESA to meet, blah, blah, blah. They said, what's that? I said, oh, Geneva. Sorry, I'm not paying $5. But the thing is, I think if you're able to go through the major OEMs and say, hey, this is something we desire, this is a channel that we want, then I think you'll be able to, you'll be able to get that engagement that you want. Maybe they won't be on your weekly meetings, but maybe Google partner engagement, partner engineering can come monthly.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, so seemingly, clearly liaison or meeting with Google would be great. Getting some of the inside knowledge, getting roadmaps. I pretty much understand what you're saying there. How about other initiatives that are not on the table today in COVESA that people would like to see happen? Is there anything that you're not? How do I say this? Forget the problems. Let's talk about something that is not offered, and you see well, we have this. We should standardize this here and offer it up, and then you run into the challenges of what that looks like, or just something like as an industry, we want to have a standard that just works on our works with Google. So a component of some kind. I don't know what it looks like. I'm just really asking, are there things like that haven't been discussed?
I don't know, I think it was previously mentioned, but when there is a new release of the AOSP, it might be good that we maintain instructions how to build it, and because sometimes the release is not full, so you might need to go through the commits and say, okay, I need to change this and that. So maybe we could have a GitHub repo with instructions. I don't know if it's needed, but at least for me it would be interesting. So I can build, there is AOSP release 13 beta 1, so I can build it almost immediately. And not each of our companies doing that individually. I think there are some people who's doing that. Snap Automotive is one of them that they're doing that. But maybe we can come together and reuse that. Might be interesting. But I got the impression that each of us is doing that internally.
Philippe, have we ever done that? Okay, does anybody else have anything to say on that? That makes sense to me. How about other things like that? I mean, something that's helpful that COVESA could do or people want to do in COVESA? What about the non-differentiated content? How would you see COVESA helping there?
Non-differentiating content is the content which is not provided by Google, right? So
yeah. So let me give you an example. So there are some OEMs who have their own app stores and they want to fill it with content that is useful, but it's not. Everyone's going to have it. So there's the app store side of things, and then there's going after the content. As you know, so. For example, there may be for example, Spotify would be non-differentiated content. It's the Spotify app, everyone can get it. If you go with Google, you get it, and you can use it. So there's a bunch of apps like that, but there's probably other things too, like weather. I don't know that OEMs want, And it really, how do you collaborate on, first of all, the content, getting the content, and then, what do you do? What are they doing with it? Does everyone still have their own app stores? The thing is I'll say this. So Cariad, the people who go with non-gas don't have an app store, so they need something, and they don't have the content. They need to go convince people to write for straight Android. They don't want to fragment. They may want to implement their own templates, for example, because for the content for a store. I'm just wondering, how would you see that playing out in COVESA? Do you have any thoughts how you might even start something like that? Because there are OEMs in COVESA who have this problem, and then others may want to join COVESA if this problem is being solved, or if they had someone to collaborate with.
There are also non-gas app stores already available. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Thermal Ignite, Asia.
Yeah.
And these are players who are kind of building non-gas app stores and having a little bit of, let's say, one layer from Google, and then having a little bit of their own flavor on top of it. And then they're inviting the content providers to build apps on top of it. This is how at least it's working at the moment.
Yeah, so Albert Jordan from Harman was here yesterday with Cariad, and so there were some of the people asking this question. So I'm asking, you guys, if others have thoughts or.
No.
Okay.
To be felt about.
Okay, what else? How about some of these questions from Jeff? What data points, metrics do OEMs and others want from vehicles? Have you guys talked about that? Did you guys Jeff, have you talked to anyone about that?
Yeah, I've had some discussions, so I think we're good there.
Okay. Anyone have anything else to say on it? How about different telemetry will be needed for EVs versus ICE for vehicles? Comments? How about going beyond IVI? I mean, we were kind of talking a bit about that. So where do you see Android going in the vehicle, I guess, beyond IVI? Do you see it going anywhere?
Yeah, so about this, I think that we could discuss the things that you, I think, mentioned about that ASPICE, traceability of the compliance with some ISO standards related to the stuff.
Yeah, I would be very interested in if someone knows anything about it or is working on it. I saw, for example, LG, they launched the new infotainment system based on Android Automotive.
NNG?
At the same time in Korea, and they at the same time also set the Automotive SPICE Level 2 for that program. But that was related to everything else than the Google software. So the question is, how is this going to be handled in the future? Because right now we are in OEM programs, and we as a component supplier, if we supply like connectivity, middleware or something, we are very much hit by following ASPICE up to level 2 at least, meeting ISO standard 21434, for example, and all these kind of things that the OEMs are also facing now with the UN regulations, which they can't control really. It's a must, and they will push it down to the suppliers, and the suppliers will be for sure Google. It will be Qualcomm on the SoC and all their software. It will be a lot of these mega companies. And the question is, how do they handle this? And what can the automotive industry request and require from these guys? And what will they, how it will be handled? Because, I mean, if we are a small supplier that is supplying as a tier 2 to the OEMs, and we have all these regulations, it will be a huge cost for us. At the end, it will be for the OEM. Each and every supplier needs to follow this. But if Google, which is the big engine, supplying a lot of different software into the system, is not following this, what's the purpose of the rest of the guys to follow all these regulations? I'm wondering a little bit if someone knows more about this.
Anyone know more about this? No one? I don't, but we can ask around. I mean, people in this room are probably as likely to know it as anyone here today, but we can, yeah,
Yeah, but from my experience, OEMs are like,
I won't tell you.
since Android is still just the IVI, they are just saying, okay,
Yeah,
you don't need to follow that ASPICE for the components that Google is doing, right? But if you're creating your own, okay, let's follow this. Because I believe that you're delivering some component that for OEMs is treated like a full delivery, or you're modifying the AOSP?
Yeah, it is now. We are not directly, but of course it's a framework. Not in AOSP in this case. It's more in a Linux framework, but it's a little bit similar. I mean, we will maybe do the same thing for an
Linux
Android
is the same, right?
Yeah.
So the community, Linux community, doesn't care about ASPICE?
Yeah, something like that. Yes, and that's also a question that I don't understand really how this can be. I mean, this is also a ton of code that hypothetically can be a security hole, or it can be, I mean, ruin the whole system as soon as you do a new update, a kernel update or something. Why shouldn't that also be controlled in the same way as something that will be line fit installed, which has not really any impact on security or safety or something, but still it needs to be developed according to a lot of cost-driving processes.
Well, I think, I mean, IGA has huge, let's say, angle on safety, driver destruction, and also safety.
Yeah.
So that's where kind of this is coming in from. And I'm aware at least gas is not following it, but long as Android Automotive, I mean, yeah, OEMs are asking suppliers also to be ASPICE level 2. Also, in some cases, ASIL rating is coming into picture for some of the features.
Yeah.
So that's still, I mean, coming up, and I think it's often the case that OEMs are kind of blindly saying everything should be either ASPICE level 2 or ASIL B or D, but what they're also not sure is it really required or not. So we have had cases that we have had to get into a discussion with an automaker to explain, okay, this is really not required. I mean, they're kind of over-engineering just to see, okay, just to rather have a governance over a particular aspect, saying only this is ASIL B or ASIL B or ASPICE level 1. So they say, okay, go across the system, full-blown ASIL level 2, ASPICE level 2. So I think, I mean, this is how we are approaching it, at least from an IGA perspective.
Oh, good.
But there is an appetite that automakers are understanding it's really not required. Yeah.
In some cases, yes.
cases not. We're probably a bit over time, but what about the question of boot camp and NDA? I mean, so what are the thoughts there? I don't know, who gets asked, what the NDA says. This seems like probably something that we should ask Google. So does anyone have any more comments on this one?
Or you have already some ASO?
No,
I'd say that comes in with the pattern engineering.
Yeah.
If we get the pattern engineering.
And
maybe
entertainment standard.
Call it with COVESA, then you kind of implement
Yeah. Philip, do you know if this has been interaction like that with Google in the past?
Potentially, but
No.
later on, but not now. But I mean, now is.
All right. So, is there anything else? I mean, that is not typically discussed in the AASIG that you guys would like to see this within COVESA? I shouldn't say the AASIG, but within COVESA that we could help with. Any other initiatives? Anything?
I think also beyond Android, right? So, I mean, we know now Amazon is also starting to come up with something. So, I mean, what about that? So, this is something new which is probably coming up. Maybe early involvement of here could be better.
So, say it one more time.
So, I mean, right now we're talking about Android.
Yeah, but Amazon could be the next.
Now, I think we know also Amazon is trying to do something together with Stellantis. So, why not an early involvement there from COVESA could maybe help us.
Okay. Nothing else? All right, well, I mean, here's the thing is if you think of anything, everyone should have this link if you expressed interest when you registered, or if you are on the ASA group, Google group. And so you're welcome to send me, topics, or to put them directly here. I'm going to pursue, to see if we can have regular engagement with Google of some type, and see what that might look like. So I'll go through and I'll respond, but I'll let people know what I find, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I heard out of here. And then, of course, Amazon, where are they? What are they doing? AWS was looking at joining COVESA, so, I don't know exactly. I know that Amazon had whatever their Fire.
Are we able to do something with the Fire OS, I guess it's named? I think it's closed source, so we are not.
Yeah, but this is just the starting point. I mean, they're kind of exploring, and now they want to build on top of it.
Yeah.
So this is at least what I've heard. I mean, there's still very little news about it. But yeah.
So I will pursue that, and if anybody has anything to add to that, please send me an email. Let me know, because I know again we were talking to AWS, which is probably not the same group, and then I've dealt with the Alexa group, and they're all separate groups. So
Yeah. I mean, there's now a new division called Amazon Smart Vehicles, and this is where it's kind of at least starting to build up. So
yeah. All right. If no one has anything else, we can call it. So that's all I've got. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And definitely, if you have anything, please send it to me.